On today's episode of Let's Grow Together, I talk with Tommy McCollister, and man, he has so much passion, so much energy, and it really just comes through in the episode of really feeling that energy of really wanting to help people. And here he is helping others with their fitness journeys and how much your mind and your body and all of these things are tied in together to help you to succeed in all areas of your life. And he drops some incredible nuggets in sharing his story about what can be done to really perform at the highest level, to be able to show up consistently and to be able to get results and really feel amazing about doing it. And that's what it's all about. So, without further ado, let's dive in. But first, the intro. Welcome to Let's Grow Together. My name is Nick Monotatibus, motivational speaker and digital marketing strategist. And this podcast is all about helping you grow both in life and business. Let's dive in. We are back for another episode, and I'm really looking forward to diving in. I just know, within 5 minutes of us talking before the call and even the conversations we had before, that this is just going to be a really great call as we dive into your story. So, Tommy, welcome.
Thanks, man. I appreciate you having me on. Like you said, man, we had a great little just few minutes to talk, and then just in Voxer and things like that, we could just already tell, hey, like feels like we've known each other for a while, and we've only talked to each other, for a few minutes.
It's a beautiful thing, and the same thing happened with Ben. So the fact you're friends with Ben, it makes a lot of it makes a lot of sense. So real quick, tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and who you serve.
Yeah. So, like you said, my name is Tommy McCollister. I'm 40 years old. I live in Henderson, Nevada, just outside of Las Vegas. And so me and my wife, we are in business together. She is a coach as well. So we run a fitness, nutrition, and life performance business. We help people, pretty much with any type of goal that they may have in life, whether that's weight loss, whether that's like body recomposition, putting on muscle. I do work with some athletes. And then there's also sometimes people come to us just because they need just that life coaching, whether that's because they're low in their spiritual life, or maybe that's their relationships are struggling, or they're looking to maybe up their business and all those type of things. So we really work with a wide variety of people.
Yeah, and it's so interesting about, and we were talking about this a little bit before we jumped on, in just how everything is so connected and so, tied together in everything in our life. Like if you want to have a successful business, like your fitness is going to either hinder you or elevate you to other levels. And it's funny because to me fitness is something that is like repeated so often in like as an essential thing for success. And I love talking about this. Now, for you, like, how did you get into this fitness space?
Well, so as a teen, I was never that guy who played high school sports or anything like that. I've always been that's why I feel like I'm a good entrepreneur and things like that. I've always kind of been in my own lane. So I raced BMX bicycles as a teen, and I still do now as an adult. So I've kind of always been like that solo person. I didn't have a team around me or anything like that. And so I always loved competing. But then I kind of have a crazy journey between my teens to when I kind of got back into fitness, which was probably around when I was like 27, when I really got deep back in, really focused in on my racing and my nutrition and my fitness and all of that. But then that just turned into my love. I ended up loving the journey of growing my body and my mind so much more than I enjoyed the actual competition. And so that became huge for me. So I got more into like the bodybuilding style, at the same time still competing, just because I'm a ridiculously competitive person. And so that just turned, I was that guy who people came to for like, hey, questions on this. They saw me getting fitter. They saw me living on more of an abundant life. And so I'd always have questions. And I was like, I'm already an entrepreneur. Why not, do this for a living and help other people? And my wife, she worked a regular job for, gosh, she was at the same company for almost 20 years. And she saw my journey on fitness, but then she was more on the nutrition side of things because she had a bunch of gut issues and things like that that were causing her ailments. And so she had to do a ton of trial and error to figure out what worked best for her to make her thrive. And ironically enough, we were just sitting there one night and I was like, why are you not in business together with me, because we have amazing relationship. Me and my wife, I always say that we just have this most fantastic relationship. Like, why are we not every day, doing this together? And so she jumped on board. She runs majority of the nutrition side, even though I'm very proficient in that as well. And so I've been doing it for like 8 years or so. And then she joined on last year with me. And so it's been a cool journey, man.
That's exciting. That's such a cool thing to be able to do. And I actually do know a lot of businesses with husband wife teams, and I think there's definitely like rules. I'm sure that you have like established of like when you can talk business and when not. But I think it's so cool some of the things that you mentioned in talking about growing your body and your mind, and how those things are so correlated. So yes, I'm sure we could get into the elements of like what exercises you could do and things of that. But I'm curious from your perspective in like how important is the mind and like how have you enhanced and grew your mind?
Yeah, so you're so right. Like we could get into these movements and things, especially with the internet now. Everybody can go get a free workout plan. Everybody can get the nutrition, right? Like that's out there and that's cool and all. But that's why I always say what we do is different because we really focus on the mindset because that's what I realized. I in high school, I mean, here and now I'm on podcasts. I talk to people all over the country on a daily basis on Zooms. But in high school, I was literally no joke, the shyest kid in my high school by far, no, not even close, right? And so then I grew into this person who now, you know, I have coaches and some of them are like, pretty well famous people. And when I get on these calls with them, like my heart doesn't skip a beat anymore. It's like I'm talking to my neighbor, it's like, so I had to grow this mindset to get there. And I'm not saying I'm cool or anything. I'm just saying that I've came from being that shy kid to this. But a lot of that was the fitness part of it, the nutrition as well, but I'll touch on the fitness first, right? So first, because when we go to failure, right? Like everybody's like, we go to failure on a set, right? And that means, well, we can't do another rep. But when we get to that hard point and our mind's telling us to quit, there's usually a couple reps left in us, right? And so our mind's saying, okay, we're at a good spot, keep going. I'm sure you're familiar with David Goggins. He always said when you're at your mind's telling you to quit at 40%, your body still has 60% left in it. And so I noticed that time and time again doing a ton of challenging things. I get bored with things easy. So not only am I doing bodybuilding, I'm racing my bikes, I'll do Spartan races, I'll run, I'll do all these other things, hike. I love those challenging things because we push our mind. And then once we overcome it, yes, it physically hurts during that moment. Yes, our mind's telling us, hey, you should quit. But at that same time, we're just building those calluses up. So when things pop up in our regular life, maybe our business is struggling. Maybe we're struggling with our relationships, or maybe there's a death in the family or whatever it is, we're able to go, you know what? I've been to a hard place physically. In those dark places, when you're in a physically, spot through the fitness or whatnot, they translate to that so much. And so I love that aspect of it, just strengthening me. And then on the nutrition side of things, right? So our gut microbiome is everything. And so a lot of people don't realize is our serotonin is actually created in our gut, then transferred to our brain. And so if we're not keeping our gut healthy, then we're not going to have that happiness going on in our brain and all that. And that transfer overs to so many different things as well. So why are we depressed all of a sudden out of nowhere? There's so much depression in the world today, so much anxiety, so much self-doubt, so much fear. Well, a lot of people just don't realize that. Look at the shelves, everything's processed. Look at the fast food, it's all cooked with vegetable oils, like all this stuff. Well, they don't realize they're just dumbing down their body, and they just think that's the new norm. And so nutrition in both of those for me, once I realized, okay, if I just eat a certain way and not these things that are inflaming my body or causing my microbiome to be off, then that when these other things come in life, I'm more able to attack them just because I'm like living to my full self rather than just having the dumbed down version of myself.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. And there's so many elements to what you just spoke about. The first thing too is when you're having more reps, like I love that. Like having more in the tank, like having, David Goggins. I love his book, by the way. I think it's like
Mhm.
I recommend it all the time. I've talked about it before. It can't hurt me. It's phenomenal. But like when there's so many correlations to fitness and life in that element of being able to do more than what you think, and you're building this mental discipline. Like so much of physical fitness is actually mental toughness and fitness, because whether it be doing that extra rep, getting up in the morning and doing the workout consistently, and every time you show up, you're building that same muscle to continue to show up in whatever area your life. And so that discipline, overlays in so many areas from the mindset aspect. And then I love how you touched on the actual consumption aspect in simply just eating better will dramatically change how you think and perform. Like to me, it's so simple, yet so many people don't do it.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. I was just thinking yesterday because, obviously this is my space and social media is a huge part of my business. And that's how I generate a lot of leads and clients. And that's how they find out about me. They get used to my personality on there. But sometimes I can come across as alpha male-ish and whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's because I absolutely, truly, truly care about people. I mean, it's the most rewarding thing. Yes, I make a living doing this, and that's great. But I actually just love seeing people's lives change. But it's tough because I can, being that this is my profession, I immediately can look at people, whether we're at a restaurant or walking on the street or whatever, and I can easily point their life, point their all their flaws in their life out and how they can improve them. And I just know it works. And like you're saying, a lot of times it's just simple stuff, right? But they don't see it. And so I'm trying to tell them that, but then they oftentimes think, oh, I'm being judgy or not. No, it's like, no, I just want you to live your purpose-driven life, like your best self. And I was on a walk. I have this amazing hike right behind my house, and I was on it yesterday. The sun's beating. It's 90 degrees, and just feeling like $1 million. And I was just thinking, man, I'm watching a lot of people's houses burning down right now, and I can come in and help put out the fire, hold their hand, help put out their fire, and do that thing and help save them. But a lot of times, people are like, I think I'm good, and then I just watch the roof cave in on them and the walls cave in on them and then the smoke inhalation and all this stuff. But they just still don't take that action, even though they're literally on fire and just heading down the wrong way. So for me, it's just a passion to help other people. So sometimes if I come across wrong, it's worth it to me to actually reach people and the ones that actually do reach out, and then I can change their lives.
Yeah, wow, what a powerful analogy when you think about it from that standpoint. And for me, I can't help but touch on one of the things you said, like looking, because it just resonated with me. Often when I look around and I see people that aren't, physically fit, and hey, you don't have to have a six pack, but like you
Mm-mm.
see people who are overly, large, obese, and like my thought is not, hey, like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with this person? It's like, oh my gosh, like this is going to cause more issues for you later down the line. It's going to cause more health problems. It's going to make you not feel as good as you could, and like these are essential things that everyone wants to live longer, right? Everyone wants to be happier. Everyone wants to not feel like their body is falling apart. Yet we live in this world of short term. And so, people are like, oh, well, that cheeseburger is going to taste really good versus thinking, well, 10 years ago, 10 years from now, yeah, cheeseburger is going to kill you, and it sounds, I'm kind of playing off, but you kind of see the analogy in the perspective when we see somebody, and I say this from you and I, in that like we want better for them because
Hmm.
we know what it feels like to be in good shape and feel good, and what it can do for your entire mental, physical headspace that goes into that. Because if you're waking up and you're looking in the mirror and you're feeling good about yourself, I mean, it changes how you show up with your friends, with your family, with your business, and all of these things just correlate so much together. And I just think the more that we can, again, help those people, I think that's so awesome.
Yeah, 100%, man. Well said. So what's crazy is me and my wife, being this what we do, we've had our DNA analyzed, and by one of the leading professionals in the field of DNA analysis. And he goes through and he looks at all your DNA and tells you different things that may be beneficial for certain people and what may not be for you. But me and my wife, we both have the obesity gene. But you would look at us and you would think, oh, he just has it easy. He works out a little bit, watches what he eats, and he just stays trim. But see, I'm obese because it's in my genetics. Well, yeah, it's in your genetics, but guess what? It's in mine too, and it's in my wife. And neither of us are obese by any means because we work super hard for that. So yesterday we were walking around Costco, and the food court there, I mean, I'm not sure if they got Costco's on the East Coast or whatnot, but but anyways, the food court there doesn't have anything healthy for you by any means. and same thing, like I mean this with a 100% love. There's no like judging or like, oh, this person's a loser, nothing like that. There was a woman there and she was very obese, pushing 400, and her son was probably 12 or 13, and he had to be 250 plus, and he's 12 or 13 years old. And my heart just hit the floor. Like, this kid's not going to school feeling like $1 million, loving his friends and all this, because he's so self-confident. His solo, his face was so bloated and swollen, and I just know that that's not going to lead to a healthy life. That's not going to set him up for success in so many other areas. And so me and my wife put out a post in our story saying, it starts with the parents, make a better choice for these people. Set your kids up for success. I have a 13-year-old and a 10-year-old. And I know how it is as parents. You just want your kids to be happy. My kids aren't into weightlifting or sports or a lot of things that I'm into, and that's 100% fine, just as long as they're going to be setting themselves up for success and I'm guiding that way. And that's all I want for those people. But anyways, of course, there's people coming out and they'll DM us and say, oh, you're judging this person. You don't know what they're going through, or their parents, their genetics, and their parents never taught them anything. And then my wife, I'm more the alpha one, she's more the laid back, but she came back with this amazing response and was like, I think now you're judging me, thinking that I grew up in a household that only ate vegetables and portioned out my meat. And I just had this amazing genetics. And she was like, my dad's a full-blown alcoholic, chain smoker. We never ate healthy. My mom ran a hot dog cart for a living. So oftentimes that's what was our food, or made out of meals, made out of hot dog buns or the leftover hot dogs. And she's like, I was not taught how to eat by any means. And she's like, there's so much information out there. Like, we all know if we smoke a cigarette, it's not good for us. We all know being obese isn't good for us. That person's not walking around thinking to themselves, hey, I think this is probably acceptable. They know. So to tell us we're judging them, it's like, no, they're letting themselves down. But at the end of the day, I just know with some consistent work, and that's all it is. It's consistent steps day in and day out, that their life will change and they will be breaking down in tears going, oh my God, I never knew this life could be this amazing. And so that's my heart with it.
Oh my gosh, I love that. Yeah, you can hear the passion in your voice. It's amazing. That just like gave me chills even. Um it's an awesome thing to be able to help someone with that transformation, and it goes to show how much of it is done through the mental space of the identity, because the person that's responding to this, they have their own identities around this, like talking about, judging them, and it's like, no, I think that the philosophy is that no matter your situation, no matter what you're going through, you can make a change, like no matter what, no matter the circumstance. So it's not a matter of judgment. It just may be more difficult for somebody that has certain conditions or certain, health conditions. But, and you mentioned, I think the big thing is with the parents being such a big part. It's the nature versus nurture kind of, like, is it genetics or is it? But, I've always come from the standpoint of that, and this goes with all parenting. And I'm not a parent, I don't have any kids, but the idea that they will do what they see, you know? And
Hmm.
so more often when you're seeing parents that are obese and then you see the kids, because I have that same thought too. So it's so interesting hearing you share this, because you're like, oh man, this, like, you see that, and it's sad when you see, these issues that are being passed on. And, I think that this goes to show, as a parent, if you're a parent and you're, obese, and you're seeing your kids go down that same path, you making a change can make the change for them just by watching you. And a lot of times we need that deeper why, to make those choices, to make those changes, so that you can see, because kids do what they see. If you tell your kid to read more books, but all you're doing is sitting and watching TV,
Hmm.
they're not gonna, read. I remember there's always like a quote where some guy comes up to a woman on a bus, and the kid's reading. He's like, oh, how do you get your kid to read? And he's like, well, he doesn't do what I tell him, he does what I do. And again, it's that same aspect of understanding that what we're doing is so much more impactful than what we're saying. And for me, is my parents, they struggled with their weight, but they always worked on it. They were always trying different things. I mean, oh my gosh, the amount of infomercial stuff that my
Hmm.
parents bought. which you gotta respect. You gotta
Yeah.
love that aspect of, my mom, like even joke, Mother's Day is coming up. When we're recording this, she's on another diet. But again, that's like the mentality. She's trying different things. You kind of got to figure out, what works for you. And I'm kind of going on a little tangent here, but set yourself up for success. I love that. Setting your kids up for success is so powerful. Now, do you work with like kids and adults, or how does that? I'm just curious. It's kind of a random question.
I don't work with kids. I used to when I first started down this field because, like I said, I race BMX bicycles, so there's a lot of kids in that field, and so I would work with them at that time. It's just I don't mind helping them or giving them advice. I love it, but at the same time, they've got to want it for themselves, and oftentimes it's the parents wanting it for them. And
Mm,
so then their why's not there, the pain points aren't there. They're like, well, my parents are telling me to work out and things like that. Their heart's not into it. And so that's, for me, just not going to work, because I want somebody who actually wants it. The reason why somebody needs help is so huge, and that's why when I always get on a consultation or I start working with people, I find out their three main goals they have, but then also the reason why maybe they are obese, or the reason why they want to get help. And a lot of times that is like, hey, I've got kids, I've got to lead by example. And so I'll always remind them of that why. So when they're struggling, it's like, hey, here's your why, and then I'll give that to them. And then it's awesome to see that, like your parents, right? Like they maybe didn't have the full blown success, but they're trying. And that's the number one key that you just want to teach anybody in life, whether that's our kids, our friends, anything. Just keep trying, and eventually something will work, or at least it's not going to get bad, because you're at least kind of keeping the governor on it a little bit. So many people have excuses these days, and you said it best. No matter how bad things get, there's always room for change. I had somebody hit me up 2 weeks ago, literally broke his leg the day before, and was like, hey man, I need help. And I was like, and he's like, I just broke my leg yesterday, they're letting you know. But he still wanted help, right? Like, that's awesome. And then last year, I broke 5 ribs, collapsed my lungs, separated my shoulder, and was in the ICU. Ironically enough, down here in Vegas, and we weren't living here at the time, and had no idea we were going to be living here at the time, but was in the ICU. I literally thought I was dying on the ambulance ride there, because I couldn't breathe. Oh, I was like, okay, this is it, and and it didn't matter. So literally, I got out of there, I survived, and I had a tube in my lungs, all this stuff. But 10 days later, literally, I went from, this is what I do for a living, beasting in the gym, to just grabbing the 10-pound dumbbells, having my wife lower me to the floor because I couldn't get off the floor. She'd have to help me up. And I would just do some light reps just to make my mental thing saying, hey, dude, you're doing something. May not be a lot of gains, but you're working towards a goal. And you're not using this as an excuse of like, oh, whoa, me, I'm going to sit here because the doctor told me. When I asked him, that was the first thing I asked him when I was in the ICU, was like, how long till I can get back to working out? He said 3 months at minimum, and I was like, okay. 10 days later, a few days later, I was back in the gym, just light reps on like the lat pull down, still squatting, but just with the bar, and still just making those things. And so it's like, what's our excuse? Like, if I can do that, like after being broke, literally almost dead 10 days before that, me to get back out there could do it. Somebody who has a broken leg, they can come do it. That was amidst 20. Then I had that. Then COVID starts up, right? So now life's throwing me all these curveballs, and I could just say, all right, this is too much. Like, I'm just going to take this year off. But 2020 was the best year of my life by far. And now 2021 is even better year so far, but just because I looked at those challenges and said, yo, I'm not letting this beat me down. I'm going to do whatever I can do. Now, my heart does go out to the people who were affected by COVID. I'm not saying that by any means. I'm saying even in these dark times, like, let's get after it. Let's take action. Let's lock arms with people, and let's make this life the best it can be.
Love it. Yes, so powerful. It is, we have that choice to either, look at excuses or look at reasons, and again, to go back to that like Instagram comment, is like that person that made that comment is looking for an excuse for that other person already. They're trying to give them a reason to like making that okay. And again, I'm not saying that like, hey, yeah, there are certain conditions and things that people have and struggles, and that makes it more difficult, but some of it can just be the smallest things that can make a huge difference. Like what you talked about with your injury and coming back, it's no different than starting from scratch. If you've never worked out before, it can start with, hey, just like go on a walk every day,
Mm-hmm.
pick up some 10-pound dumbbells. And I think, to me and from my experience, that's what really helps people, in that look, if you're going from never working out and then you think you're going to jump into working 6 days a week, an hour at the gym, like you're
Mhm,
just nuts. That's just not realistic. That's not how habits work. But like if you
mhm.
just start with small things, hey, go for a walk for 10 minutes, and these things start to compound. Hey, you go for a walk. Now you feel better about yourself. You're feeling good. You're like, well, all right, I feel good. I'm going to make a better choice now when I go to open the fridge. And so, like, all of these different things correlate and compound into just starting small. Now, one thing I wanted to talk about, because you mentioned this earlier, so like setting your kids up for success. What do you believe is like some of the essential pieces or the most essential thing to really setting yourself up for success to succeed in, you know, your mental and physical fitness?
Everyday consistency, right? Like making your goals non-negotiable. I know my clients get tired of hearing me say that. I say it's non-negotiable. Make your goals non-negotiable, because as soon as we have something like, whether it's something as simple as going for a walk, getting X amount of steps in, getting a certain amount of water in every day. If we, as soon as we tell each other ourselves, like, so one of my things is reading, right? Like I have to read a certain amount every single day, and it's only like 10 minutes, right? So it's not very much, but there's a lot of times where I save it for the end of the night, where it's like 12:30 at night, which is way past my bedtime, and I'll be like, it's non-negotiable. I'll get it in. But as soon as we start telling ourselves, it's late, I'm not going to do that, tomorrow I'll get after it. Well, now we just open the door, we cracked it open, and we let the floodgate come through. Because now the next time we get tired, the next time we're unmotivated, we'll say, I'm just unmotivated. And now those excuses are just going to start compounding. So when we just set that mindset of like, nope, no matter what, I'm getting these things in, and then they're consistent, right? Like, it's not rocket science how to lose weight. Yes, there's a lot of intricacies to it, but at the same time, how to lose weight, how to build the mindset, how to get fitter. Like, it's small little steps. And so one of the things that we do with our clients is we always say, we have our programs 3 months. We don't let anybody, rarely let anybody sign up for less, because we know it's about building a lifestyle, right? So you don't think twice about brushing your teeth. You don't think twice about taking a shower. You just do it because it's part of your lifestyle, right? Like, so that's what we try to do for these people, or do for these people, is that, okay, over the course of 3 months, we're going to start small, and we're going to add one thing in each week. So slowly you're building. So like you're saying, we can't just say, hey, week one, you're going to the gym 6 days a week, you're eating just this, and then you're reading an hour of a book, and you're doing all this. Like, it's going to be way too much. They're going to burn out after 3 days and just be done. So by adding those small, simple things in, A, just being consistent with them, B, making them non-negotiable so they get done, so your mind's not playing games with you. And when you just do those little things, the compound interest at the end of that month is so huge. At the end of the 3 months, right? You can have a glass of water that's just dripping a drip into it and it's empty. You're going to look at it and go, oh my God, that's going to take forever. But eventually the consistency will fill that up, right? And that's the same thing with anything in life. And so that's the number one thing. Just don't get frustrated because your results, you didn't go from being 250 to 200 in 2 weeks. Like, that's what people want these days. They want to go from that to Instagram model in 2 to 3 weeks. And if they don't, and if they plateau for a day or two, then they're frustrated and they throw in the towel. But it's just, nope, stay course. You'll get there.
Yes, love that. Super powerful. And I think it's so funny that you mentioned the reading example because those that are listeners know that I've talked about this before. I have a non-negotiable that I read every single day. So much that so my routine is reading in the morning, but from sometimes like on a Saturday night, let's say I didn't read that morning, I'll be laying in bed getting ready to go and be like, I didn't read today, and I'll get up out of my bed, go to my book, open it up, like really read a page or two and close it and then go back to bed. Because again, it's that there's no excuse. It's a non negotiable. Like I didn't set it as, hey, it needs to be 10 minutes a day, which usually I'm reading for minimum 10. You sometimes it's 20, 30 minutes. But again, those rare occasions on those weekends that I kind of, didn't do it in the morning, I make sure this is a non negotiable. And I think when it comes to non negotiable, I'd love to hear your feedback in this regard. Is from my experience, is setting non negotiables that are light and easy. Like having a non negotiable that's like, do not cheat for 3 months and work out every single day is not a good non negotiable. So, how do you help your clients with like really determining what are the non negotiables?
Exactly like what you're saying. Make things that are, going to be beneficial, that are going to require a little bit of work, but nothing that's crazy, right? Because a lot of people that we work with are high achieving businessmen and women. And so they've already got a busy schedule, right? So, like, if I'm adding these crazy things in for them, they're just not going to have the time for it. They're not going to want to do it. But a lot of times, these habits, like 10 minutes a day, even just a little bit, it adds up too, right? So that reading. And so I don't put anything in there that's crazy for anybody by any means, just because you don't want to extra cortisol and extra stress and do these things outside that are gonna make you feel, they're gonna burn you out for one, but then also make you, I don't want to say feel like a loser if you don't do it, but kind of, right? So like when you got that reading in that night and you chose to do it at night, you went to bed feeling successful, and then you woke up in the morning feeling even more successful. Like, dude, I got that in last night. But had you skipped it, even though it was momentary pleasure, so you could get an extra 5 minutes of sleep at the end of the day, what's that? You would have woke up and been a little bit depressed. And then it would have carried through your day a little bit. And then maybe it starts your week off a little bit down. But because you got it in, now your vibration's higher. And then you probably had an amazing Sunday. And then that carries over into Monday, right? And it just keeps going. So having little tiny steps on each of those that are doable in a short amount of time, then it keeps it going. So one of the cool things, we have our own personal app, and one of the cool things that I love about it, my favorite part, is the checklist in there. So like I said, I kind of add one thing extra a week, and sometimes they're nutrition and based or fitness based, and sometimes they're the personal development based. But when you click that you did it for that day, whether that's the reading or the water or something like that, it obviously tells you congratulations. So we get a dopamine hit. And then B, it tells you how many days in a row you've completed that. So you might be on day 18, 43, 112, right? Now you're on a streak, and that streak's holding you accountable because it's going to be at day 112. And you're like, I'm not breaking the streak. I know how many nights I had to do the reading in the dark or whatever it was that you're doing. And you did it. And you're like, it's the same things people who are sober, right? Or addicts. That's one of the things that holds them accountable when they're like, I've been sober for 4.5 years. If they break that in the back at day one, they're just going to continue using for a while until they hit an even darker place because they know what they did. And to get back to that 4 years is so long. So the cool thing about that checklist, it's telling you, you're on this long of a streak. Don't break it. And when they click it, I get a notification saying that they did it so I can congratulate them personally myself, which is always feels good when your coach reaches out to you. Or B, if I don't see it done, I can get on them and be like, dude, you were crushing it. What happened? And then they try to give you the excuse and they'd be like, don't give me none of that. Get back to it. These are the results we saw because you were doing it and whatnot. So that's kind of how we do it.
Yeah, that's so awesome. And habit tracking is so important. I love the, don't break the chain. I know I think that's in Atomic Habits that talks about that. And the example is like Jerry Seinfeld, he writes a joke every single day, don't break the chain. And if you do break the chain, making sure that you don't do it more than 2 days. So it's like, all right, you let this one day go, you're back on it next day. Like you can't, the consistency and it builds that mental endurance and to be able to just consistently show up and show up and show up, and it feels good. Like that to me is the biggest thing. And I'm curious from your standpoint, because it's almost like I have these own beliefs about fitness, and I'm curious to hear yours. So from my experience, and like people set these goal, oh, I want to lose this amount of weight, by this amount of time. And I think that's just so difficult versus like the activities that are going to get you the results that you want. So it's the wins, and you kind of talked about already, is like a check mark. Do you work out today? Check mark, versus like, did you lose 5 pounds today? Like, that's not really fair, to focus on those types of numbers. So from your experience, like, do you focus primarily on like activities, water drinking, exercising daily, or are there like certain numbers that you look at?
I like to do, we have the certain things like the water, the exercises daily, that breaks it down per the person's goals, what they have, whether that's home or gym for their exercise and their schedule, that really depends on it and their experience as well. But I don't like to look, I mean, I do numbers. We do weigh in. We like our clients to weigh in once a week and then take body measurements every 2 weeks because oftentimes the scale won't move. And in their head, they're thinking, I didn't lose any weight. Well, little did they know they're newer to the game. So they're putting on some lean muscle mass, which weighs more than fat. But then they can do the measurement and be like, oh, whoa, I've lost 3 inches, even though I've only lost 1 pound, even though it was way more fat that they lost, So really, then they can do that. But at the end of the day, it is those consistent habits that I really care about more than just the weight. Because sometimes people get on a call with us and they're like, tell me how much weight I'm going to lose. I'm like, I can't guarantee you anything. Even if you hit your goals every single day and did exactly what I said, your body's different than Steve's body or Randy's or whoever, is everybody's different. And so I don't like to give somebody a number like that because it is the journey and the process. It never ends, right? Or you might get to your goal. We have a girl, she was 265 pounds and she just got down to 200. But the journey there over the past few months was crazy what she overcame: alcoholism, a bad divorce. And now she's like, oh my God, I want to do what you guys do for a living. But before, she was so broken that the journey there was far more. And so, yes, she might have hit one milestone on the way there. She was wanting to get down to 200 by her 40th birthday. And so she hit that milestone. But then that like just moved the marker forward. Okay, now I want to grow a business. Now I want to do this. But those same systems and processes are going to get her there, continuing on with the diet and the fitness and nutrition, but now adding in other things on the checklist or our daily routines that are going to grow her business. So for me, it's all about the journey that gets people there. Yes, you're going to lose weight. Yes, you're going to feel better. We have somebody else who is on antidepressants and she's been able to drastically lower those down. She's been able to do so many different things just because of that. And has she had the giant amount of weight loss? Not as much as she would want. She's probably lost 10 or 15 pounds in a couple of months, but which is still not bad. Most people say 2 pounds a week, 1 to 1.5 is ideal. So it's not bad. In her mind, she wanted to lose more weight, but she still tells us, oh my God, you guys have been this huge catalyst to get me over all these hurdles. And so that's more important, because if she just continues on that journey, that weight's going to keep coming off. Anybody who gets down to whatever weight, that doesn't necessarily it's going to equal happiness if that process wasn't done in a healthy way and got them there to the thing. So anybody, especially in social media, there's all those things with coming across, oh, diet pills or these body wraps and all that stuff, or drink this shake and it's going to make you lose weight. Well, will they? Maybe, possibly, but at the same time, is that the healthiest way there? Did you skip the journey that was going to make you successful for life and make this sustainable? Because that's America's problem, right? It's a yo-yo diet problem. Like, it's a weight regain. So people will crash diet or take these pills and do all this thing, and they'll lose a bunch of weight, but then they'll gain it back, or they'll get the weight loss surgery, right? They'll lose a bunch of weight right away, but then they didn't fix any of those habits that got them to there, or fix the traumas or whatever it was. And now their body's not soaking in nutrients because their stomach's so small that now they'll put the weight back on again of time because they didn't fix the leak under the sink to get them there.
Yeah, it's just the classic, instant gratification that so many of us want, and they're missing the part that makes it so rewarding when you can look back on 6 months, a year, and be like, "Wow, look at this process." And I think the biggest thing for most people, and one thing I want to reflect on that you mentioned, one, like the number on the scale is a terrible number to go off of. I'm glad that you confirmed that. I was pretty sure, but you just confirmed it again. Like, especially even if you're just getting started, if you're exercising, and the muscle aspect, and the fact that you can just check your inches. I didn't even, I didn't even know that's like a great way of actually checking to see the progress that you've made. But really just understanding that journey, this step by step, it becomes so much more rewarding when you know that you put in the work, you change the lifestyle, and so much of it is wrapped up in the identity that we have, of like, hey, I'm a healthy person, so I make healthy choices, and being able to shift that versus just being like, I'm going to do this diet real quick and then I'm going to go back to eating cheeseburgers. Like,
Mm-hmm.
no, that's not it's not gonna work. The goal is to get to a point where you love fitness and you like to exercise and you want to keep seeing those results. And I think it's so powerful.
Yeah, it really is because oh man, like that's the thing I hear about anybody who's like really into fitness, and obviously I am and you are, but it's like almost like an antidepressant. It's a stress relief. We go there. Me personally, I don't like working out with other people. I put my headphones on, and whatever mood I'm in that day, I play that type of music. I'm zoned out. The endorphins are going. I'm getting such adrenaline rush. My heart rate's up. I'm feeling good. And then when I leave there, I feel like $1 million, right? Like I not only just accomplished something working towards my goals, but I literally feel so good for the rest of the day. That's why I like to work out in the first half of the day, so it carries over for the rest of the day. And but a lot of people don't look at that, or when they first start, right? It's tough. You're not enjoying it because it's hard. Your body hurts. It's sore. You got the DOMS, all this other stuff. But once you get past that plateau, right now you're doing it, right? Like when we're learning to walk, we had to fall a bunch of times, and it doesn't probably didn't feel good. Not that we remember being that young, but we maybe bonked our head and things like that. But then as you were able to walk, so same thing. If we can get past those first few weeks to a month, then it's like, oh, people fall in love with fitness. My wife was, like I said, she's mainly the nutrition person, and she was working her other job, and she was working out here and there. But when she came on this full time, it took her a little bit to get into the routine. She would go every day, but I didn't know if she was loving it. But now she walks in that gym like a boss, owns it, crushes it, like, so confident and just loves it. And you can tell how much she loves it. But she never knew that. She's 39 years old. It took her, a good, for majority of her life to figure out, hey, I love working out. But she wouldn't have ever known that hadn't she started just consistently doing that. And most people aren't willing to go and do that because they just look at it as, oh, that's going to only thing that's going to do is make me maybe lose some weight possibly, or it's just a lot of hard work. I don't want to do that hard work, not realizing that it just makes you feel good as well.
Yeah, what a beautiful thing. And I think that's where the couple months really makes the impact, is that you start to see what happens when you show up consistently versus, like, I mean, yes, if you start working out, you're going to start feeling pretty good, like, pretty quickly. Like, even after one exercise, you're like, wow, I feel better already. But when it starts to compound and snowball, and you start to feel like after a couple months, and you start to look and you look at yourself, and even it's not always about the looks too, but just how you're feeling. And like, that's the feeling that I love about physical fitness, in that it will make you feel amazing when you are doing this consistently, regardless of what your situation is. You could be 150 pounds overweight. If you go from 150 pounds overweight to 140 pounds, you're going to feel amazing, even just that first 10 pounds. And then you're just progressively getting better, feeling better from that consistent results that you achieve. And I think it's so amazing. And I want to shift gears a little bit here, in that you started talking a little bit about your routine, and I am curious about how you kind of structure your day, specifically in the morning, to really set yourself up for success.
So my morning routine isn't as impressive as most people's. I save majority of my work for the evening, the personal development stuff. Usually that's because like I need my caffeine, and so like I don't get up early. See the people getting up at 4 in the morning. I 100% believe, well, know for a fact that 7 to 8 hours of sleep is one ideal for people, right? So I go to bed about 11:30, and then I get up, 7:30 or 8. And so then I start my day. I pretty much just get up, I go have my breakfast, and then I just start doing work. And then we go to the gym, and then I work for the afternoon. And then the evening is when I do like more of my personal development stuff, my reading. One of the things I do, so we have a private Facebook group for all of our clients. And what we do in there is I like to lead by example. And so, because I have these things for them to do on their checklist for their personal development. I don't want them to think that like, hey, I'm not doing it, even though I'm telling them doing it. So I post in there everything I'm doing. I post my food logs. I post if I'm in, a cut phase and getting X amount of steps per day, I'll post my steps. I'll post what I'm reading. And then, so one of the things that I love, absolutely love, that just it's crazy, especially in this day and age where there's, like you're saying, instant gratification, or whatever's going on, COVID or whatever may be going on, the tensions in the world. One thing I have everybody do, and I love doing myself because it just reminds us how blessed we are, is I have everybody write down something they're grateful for, something they're excited about, something they love, and something they're proud of. So four things that kind of touch on those things. I try to do something different every single day, and I recommend other people do something different every day, because we could always just say the same four things, right? Like those are pretty easy to come up. And then our brain's going to recognize those same four things. But there's times where I got, okay, what am I saying today? Like, for example, I'm like, I'm excited about going on a podcast tomorrow was one for yesterday, like, and it's something new that I'm proud, like when I said my wife responded back to that person yesterday, it was like, I'm proud of my wife for standing up for what she believes in, and whatnot. So it's things like that. And it's like, you kind of start, your brain is such a weird thing, but the more you're telling it these positive things, the more, I don't want to say it believes it, because it doesn't know between what's real and what's fake. So if we're always hearing negative things, that's why I don't hang out with negative people. But then we're going to shift our mindset to there. So for me, my routine's in the evening. So I'll go through and I'll put all my things. I'll get my reading in, my gratitude list in, my affirmations, all those different type of things. I'll get those in the evening, is when I do it. I know a lot of people love doing them in the morning, but then mine, it still carries over to the next day.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's an important point of just like, hey, everyone's different in when they're doing these activities. But I had this big smile on my face. Maybe you could see it. If you guys are watching the video, you could see it. But it's just because I hear it and it's stuff that I do and I love. And it's stuff that's been like my favorite thing about this show is that I bring on really awesome people, and so many of them share similar things. And to me, that's the beauty of this because how many times do you guys need to hear it to start doing it? Because to me, it's like, oh my gosh, here we are. Like, affirmations, gratitude, and you're so right because you're reprogramming your brain when you start to reflect on these things that were positive, these things that were great, things that you're proud of. But if you end your day every day and you're like, man, today was terrible, this happened and this happened, and like, how is that helping you in any capacity? Like, yes, it's important sometimes to reflect, but this environment of being able to reflect on what's great about the day, what are some amazing things, is going to shift everything for you. And I love that you said like surrounding yourself with positive people. I'm a big believer in that as well. And I think it's so cool to see, because again, having doing it at night, I think is a cool uh differentiation. A lot of times, people are talking about doing it in the morning. I know I do it in the morning, so I think it's really awesome too to see that there are other options for you to incorporate these important things into your day that are going to have amazing effects and results.
Yeah, no, well said, man. Everybody is different, and and I totally understand that yeah, some people want to do it in the morning, some people can't do it in the morning, some people can't, and just when we get them in, and that kind of goes back to what we were saying earlier when we're building these habits, they don't need to be long. It doesn't take that long to come up with those four things I mentioned, right? Like how long does that really take? Sometimes it maybe takes me 2 to 3 minutes, but at the most, times they're just right there, or I'll remember them throughout the day too. Like I'll be like, ooh, I'm going to use that for tonight, when I write down my stuff. Okay, and that's cool to remind ourselves of these beautiful things that are really going on around us and how blessed we are rather than spinning it the other way. Because that's just mindset, right there. No matter what's going on in life, there's always a flip side to that. Like, they always say, is the glass half empty or half full? And there's always a blessing in disguise somewhere, especially in my life. I've been through a lot of hard, dark times, but they were all, I still to this day on social media, I'm super, people follow me on social media. You're going to see a lot of, I share all my past stories, and that's not to like put myself down or brag or anything like that. It's just they all got me to where I'm at now, man. And I mean, I'm sure you can see in the smile on my face, I'm like happy, I love life, right? But I had to go through that stuff to get where I'm at now. And so if anybody's struggling, just realize, there's do some habits like this, change it up, lock arms with somebody and have them help guide you. But no matter where you're at in life, there's always room for improvement and you can get there at any point in time. So no matter what's going on, we can always flip the script on it.
Amazing. Yes. What an awesome, that's a great note to just realizing that again, you always have that point to flip the script. I love it. Take that change, make those habit changes and start small. It's just, I mean, today has been awesome. I mean, we talked about how fitness and life and these things correlate and how much is connected to your mind and your body and the benefits of physical fitness to correlating into your minds and being able to push to that that next rep, doing that more reps. Oh, I can do one more. You mentioned the quote from David Goggins, like if your mind's telling you that you're done, you're at 40%, you can do more. And I think, with everything that we do, not just in fitness, it's so powerful to be able to do that. You talked about being shy in high school and like making that transition. I think it's so funny when I hear stories about people in their high school because I'm a different person from when I was in high school. I was super shy too, and physical fitness helped me to become more confident, to be able to show up, to be able to do these things. And it just shows what can be done in whoever you were in the past does not reflect who you are going to become. And even if you're 40 or 50 now, that doesn't mean that that's going to determine who you're going to be when you're 60 and 70. You can always make those changes, make those, switches. You mentioned the example of the house burning down and like seeing people that are struggling and being able to go in and help people. I mean, the way that you spoke, the way the passion that you share is just so powerful, and the ability to help people and share these gifts, because it really can make an total lifestyle change, in that simply making your fitness a priority can make you happier, and it starts with, here are the two things: consistency, and make your goals non-negotiable. I mean, so powerful. Think the reflection on really those two things alone. Like, if you're going to take anything from today's episode, use that: consistency and making your goals non-negotiable. And that's how you're going to be able to get thinking about the long-term games, thinking not how you're going to feel tomorrow, what this is going to do for your future, what this is going to do for your family's future, these lifestyle changes that you're able to create. And just starting small, making these changes can be so powerful. So thank you so much for sharing today. It's been awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, man, just for having me on this platform. I felt like we were in that flow state right there, just getting after it. Both of us providing a lot of good value and just vibing, because I do, like I said, I'm just so passionate about helping other people. But it's not only the people that are struggling. A lot of times, there's a lot of people who just feel like they're doing good, right? A lot of times, people are too good to be great, right? And so that's
Mhm.
why maybe somebody's not obese. Maybe they're doing good in their business. They're doing good in this. They're doing good in that. But there's always levels to the game, right? Like Tom Brady, 7 Super Bowls, right? He still has coaches and he's still trying to get better. Tony Robbins, biggest speaker in the world, right? He still has coaches. I personally have multiple coaches that work with me weekly. Some big people who just changed my life. I'm always trying to be better. And you just, like you said just a second ago, you just never know where this is going to lead you. Like, this is what I'm doing now, but there's always new wrinkles coming into my life. And I'm same thing with new opportunities that come into our life, because we're being open and because we're trying to be the best version of ourselves. So if anybody is struggling out there, become the best version. And if you think you're doing great right now, there's always another level to greatness.
Amazing. So awesome. What's the best way for somebody to get in touch with you, get a hold of you, follow you?
So primarily, it's just I love doing. I'm on LinkedIn, Instagram, and then Facebook. But my Facebook is just my personal one. It's under Tommy McCollister. I imagine there's a couple other Tommy McCollisters out there. But on Instagram, it's Real Presence Fit, at Real Presence Fit. And then on LinkedIn, it's Tommy McCollister. But I feel like it's the best is through Instagram. We are going to eventually launch a website, but there was a reason why we didn't. Is because I like to have connection with people eye to eye and face to face through Zooms and things. They can see my passion rather than just going to a website and saying, "Yeah, it looks like he provides the same service as somebody else," which is far from the truth, because they're getting me, and I know nobody else is going to outmatch me on passion. They might be able to meet me there, but they're not going to outmatch me on it.
Love it. Awesome. Tommy, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This was so awesome.
Yeah, thank you so much, Nick. I really appreciate it, bud.
Absolutely. And thank you, listeners. I know that you got a ton of value. Go check Tommy out on Instagram. And remember, let's keep growing together.
Wait, one more thing. I would first like to say thank you. Thank you for listening. And if you enjoyed this message, please take a moment to write a review. By writing a review, it helps people find this message and helps me help more people. And if you really, really liked it and you think this message could help someone else, take a screenshot, share it on Instagram, and please tag me at Nick J. Boni, NickJBoni, so I can show my appreciation for you. We can all win by helping each other grow. Thank you. Take care, and I'll talk to you soon.